Testing, testing.
All right, you guys ready? The February 25th, 2025 meeting of the Public Safety Committee will now come to order. Will the clerk please call the roll?
Mr. Burgess. Mr. Burgess is present. Mr. Colby. Mr. Colby is present. Mr. Cruz. Mr. Cruz is present. Ms. DeFlorio. Ms. DeFlorio is present. Mr. Dondorfer. Mr. Dondorfer is present. Ms. Hugh Smith. Ms. Hugh Smith is present. Chairman Long.
Here.
Chairman Long is present. Mr. Mafucci.
Here.
Mr. Mafucci is present. Mr. Milne. Mr. Milne is present. Ms. Smith. Ms. Smith is present. Ms. Vasquez Simmons. Ms. Vasquez Simmons is present.
Is there anyone signed up for the public forum?
There's not.
The next item on the agenda is the approval of minutes. You have the January 28th, 2025 minutes before you. They will stand approved unless the clerk is notified of any changes by the end of the day. The next item on our agenda is new business. Mr. Clerk.
Referral 25-0044, amend Resolution 378 of 2023 to extend the contract with the University of Rochester for the continuing development and sustainment of the county's medical countermeasure program.
Move it.
Moved by legislator Mafucci, seconded by legislator Vasquez Simmons. Are there any questions or discussion? Legislator Dondorfer.
Through you to the administration,
How is there no cost and why is the extension only 2 months long?
Through the chair, Mike Sayers from the Department of Public Health. We had a contract employee take another position out of state, and it took us about 2 months to fill it. And so we just took that money that wasn't spent on the contract employee who left, added to the end of the contract.
Got it. Thank you. I yield the floor.
Any other questions or comments? Legislator DeFlorio.
Contract, but, could we maybe give a little bit of an overview of the program?
Through the chair, I am the program manager for the Office of Public Health Preparedness, and this employee works for me. And our program, including this employee, works on plans, training, exercises, and real-world responses like COVID-19, hepatitis A, H5N1. We also work with public safety on the Ginna Nuclear Power Plant radiological plan. So we develop all those plans. Today, there was a biohazard detection system tabletop exercise involving the United States Postal Service and all of our local first responders that this employee happens to be part of developing and maintaining and sustaining that plan. And lastly, I'll just say in COVID-19, I'm sure everybody in this room realized or got some type of personal protective equipment from our county staging site. And at the time, the prior employee was helping to run that site for us. So we're kind of engaged with all the departments and different sites of planning, training, and exercises.
And one quick question. There be another probably grant that would be accepted.
Yes, last month you accepted a grant that was taking it from the end of this contract to the end of the year. This contract is, it's RFQ, is a 5-year RFQ program according to Monroe County policy. And we are looking to put it out for bid again in the next couple of months in anticipation of having future grant monies in 2026 to continue the service of this employee.
Any other questions or comments? I'd like to declare my interest, please, Mr. Clerk.
Got it.
Seeing no other questions or comments, all those in favor, please indicate by saying aye. Aye. Any opposed? Item carries. Next item, please.
Referral 25-0045, authorize amendments to the Monroe County Bar Association plan regarding the Conflict Defender's Office and assigned counsel program.
Move it.
Moved by legislator Mafucci, seconded by legislator Vasquez Simmons. Are there any questions or comments? Seeing none, all those in favor, please indicate by saying aye. Aye. Any opposed? Motion carries. Next item, please.
Referral 25-0046, acceptance of a grant from the New York State Division of Homeland Security and Emergency Services for the Operation Stone Garden Program and authorize intermunicipal agreements with the towns of Greece, Arundecoy, and Webster.
Move it.
Moved by legislator Mafucci, seconded by legislator Burgess. Are there any questions or comments? Legislator Burgess.
Hit your mic.
Hit it.
Okay.
Through you to the administration, I'd just like to have a brief description on how this money was spent last year.
Through the chair, Chief Deputy Michael Fowler for the Sheriff's Office. I believe you asked about last year's spending, is that correct?
Yes.
Last year for fiscal year 23 for this grant, the Sheriff's Office spent $54,000 for trailers for equipment, and the rest was spent on overtime.
I yield. Thank you.
Any other questions or comments? Legislator Cruz.
Through the chair to the administration, I first would like to have a definition of what French benefits is.
Through the chair, Jennifer Curley from the Sheriff's Office. We claim the retirement and FICA on the overtime.
Did you hear that?
Thank you. I would like to know through the chair to the administration, what activities are the Morrow County sheriffs performing that are generating overtime or mileage and/or mileage?
Through the chair, the patrol functions that we conduct are often marine related. The boats patrolling the southern shore of Lake Ontario, as well as traffic enforcement and ports of entry call for the boats that are coming into the marinas, all the way from the western border of Monroe County to the eastern.
Thank you. Through the chair to the administration, is there a local border patrol agency patrolling Monroe County?
Through the chair, yes, there is.
Through the chair to the administration, do we know about how many stations, where they're located, and or how much personnel they have active?
Through the chair, the Buffalo station assigns one station to the Rochester area, but I cannot speak to how many officers they have available.
Thank you. Through the chair to the administration, you mentioned that the sheriff's department is aiding in patrolling the border, and to me, that seems like a job designation that falls under border patrol. So just to get clarification, is the sheriff's department actively through this grant patrolling the border?
Through the chair, the responsibility falls on the Border Patrol for that function. We supplement them and have done so for the past 16 years. That is specifically because the federal government doesn't have the resources to patrol the entire border of the nation. So they contract with local authorities all across the country to supplement that.
Thank you. Through the chair to the administration, and I think this is just a general statement. I think it would, I mean, because the money comes down from the federal government, would it make more sense to, or for the federal government to fund the border patrol to aid them in set allocation of resources that is needed to properly and effectively patrol our border? Would you, I guess my question would be, would you agree with that statement?
Yeah.
Germane to this grant from New York State Division of Homeland Security regarding the sheriff's office in the towns that are accepting this funding.
Do you have a question?
I would like to, my question is, does he agree with that statement? We're accepting, where the topic is that the acceptance of grant money from the federal government to aid with our sheriff's department
Okay.
in,
I was asking Legislator Cruz to ask a question, but your point is that, your point of order is that this is not a relevant question.
That's correct.
I would like Legislator Cruz to be able to ask and get an answer, please.
I appreciate that. So Mike, if I need to reiterate my question, seeing how the, we're receiving federal funding to aid the border patrol with our sheriff's department, would our sheriff's department or head of the sheriff's department or its representative or designee would believe that that money could best be spent if it was allocated to border patrol directly?
I'm going to reiterate my point of
Yeah.
order, sir. I mean, this is a New York State Division of Homeland Security grant. It's not a federal grant. And he's asking for the opinion of the chief deputy on whether or not he thinks that the Border Patrol could better use this money than the county can.
Can I ask to clarify the question? Can I ask to clarify? I'd like to reject your point. I'd like to ask Legislator Cruz, are you trying to ask what the administration thinks about funding going directly to the sheriff's
I
department?
guess I'll step back from asking for his direct opinion on the
Okay.
matter. But I would like to make to this body understand that we are receiving money to fund border patrolling through our agency and how that can make it problem for some of our residents here in the county, and that the perspective of the public is that there can be a fear of calling 911 for aid. So this is where I'm heading with my line of questioning. There can be a fear of calling 911 for aid because of the association of our sheriff's department with with the sheriff's department with the border patrol agency. So if there would be a way to disassociate one from the other, I believe that many of our residences, at least mine from our district, would benefit and understand the role of the sheriff's department to protect us within our borders and leave the border patrolling, as it were, or may, to border patrol. And I'll just leave it at that
Okay.
as a statement.
Okay.
Just to finish up, and to continue on what I just said, my last, I guess, would be a statement or an ask or something for the sheriff's department to keep in mind or for future reference. Would the sheriff's department, do they have, or could they possibly make in the future some sort of public campaign in which we are educating the overall public about not only, I would like to finish what I'm saying before.
He has a point of order. He has to admit to hear what the point of order is.
Yeah.
Again, this is, I understand where he's going with this, but this is not germane to this point that we are covering tonight. If he wants to have that description or that information to the police department or to the Monroe County Sheriffs, it should go directly to them in a letter form or of some sort, not in this fashion and not under this question that this committee is tackling right now.
I'd like to push back on that, reject that, and have the Legislator Cruz?
I'd like to
All right, I
appeal the
would
point
just
of the
like
chair.
to explain my,
He just rejected,
Okay.
he rejected his point of order. He just appealed it.
Okay, so we vote. Is that second?
Who was that moved by? I'm sorry.
Legislator
Legislator
Milne,
Milne.
second by Legislator DeFlorio.
Mr. Appeal the ruling of the chair. Correct. Yes sustains the rule of the chair. Mr. Burgess. Mr. Burgess votes yes. Mr. Colby.
I think he was a no.
Mr. Colby. Mr. Colby votes no. Mr. Cruz.
Mr. Cruz,
Mr.
he
Cruz.
votes yes.
Mr. Cruz votes yes. Mrs. DeFlorio. Ms. DeFlorio votes no. Mr. Dondorfer. Mr. Dondorfer votes no. Ms. Hugh Smith. Ms. Hugh Smith votes yes. Mr. Mafucci.
Yes.
Mr. Mafucci votes yes. Mr. Milne. Mr. Milne votes no. Ms. Smith. Ms. Smith votes no. Ms. Vasquez Simmons. Ms. Vasquez Simmons votes no. Chairman Long.
Yes.
Chairman Long votes no. 5-6. Appeal of the rule fails. Appeal of the chair fails.
Did you count me as yes?
Yes, 5-6.
Okay.
think is extreme, how we vote on this and how our sheriff's department is viewed in the county is extremely important. Because the role that they serve is extremely important in making sure that not only order is kept, but the safety of the residents. And so to many, it may not seem like it's a big deal, but to the rest of us, the fear of deportation, it's a real threat and a problem. And they may discourage many from calling 911 or asking for aid as a result of themselves or a loved one being deported. And there should never be a fear of asking for help from our sheriff's department or police department agencies because of their association with the Border Patrol. So not only would I like to move in asking, I guess, the sheriff department in the future to keep in mind that maybe moving in a direction in which we may educate the public about the differences between what the Border Patrol and the sheriff departments are, their uniforms and the functions that they play, with the understanding that, of course, we do need to keep our borders safe. That's, I guess I would say in Spanish, se cae de la mata is obvious. And because of those reasons, I will be voting no. I do not believe that our Border Patrol, our Sheriff's Department should have a function with the Border Patrol agency, and maybe we need to talk to our higher ups, Congress, to talk about how this funding could be given to Border Patrol directly, so they may have the proper resources to patrol their border safely and efficiently without getting our local departments involved.
Thank you, Legislator Cruz. Legislator DeFlorio.
That we consider, use of this grant.
Through the chair, this is enforcement of criminal statutes. This is strictly for the preservation of public safety in our community. The prevention of terroristic threats coming across the border, dangerous weapons, drugs, that sort of thing. The sheriff's office does not engage in immigration enforcement. This is all enforcement of criminal statutes that pose a direct public safety risk to our community.
And 6 months to a year, could you perhaps give us just a brief idea of any encounters that you had in terms of, are there boats coming in that are carrying drugs and weapons? What type of, I guess, engagement have you had?
Through the chair, we have had engagements of that type. Through cooperation with federal agents, we become notified of shipments that are coming across our border into our community. We act to intercept those shipments and then prosecute accordingly. Recently, we've had a news article that we worked with the ATF. We were notified by Customs and Border Protection of automatic weapons illegally being shipped into our community. We moved to intercept those weapons and made an arrest of several significant felonies. That's just one example of how this money's used.
Any other questions or comments? Legislator Hugh Smith.
Through the chair, a couple questions. Could you give me a sense when our sheriffs are getting overtime for this federal function, are they doing that always with Border Patrol agents? Like, are they moving together, or as you previously just indicated, are you just getting a phone call and then the sheriffs are going out to perform that federal function?
Through the chair, the sheriff's office directs the timing of our operations. The agreement with the federal agencies requires us to notify them of our activities, but that does not mean that they are with us. Very seldom do they operate near us during these operations.
Thank you. And approximately how many hours of overtime is this paying for?
You've asked how many hours, through the chair, excuse me, you've asked how many hours this has paid for. The most recent calendar year, complete calendar year, is 2023. and that was 1,047 overtime hours. As an indicator to that, out of 1,047 overtime hours, there was only one instance with one individual where there was any question of an immigration nature.
Thank you, I appreciate that. So could you, through the chair to the administration, could you quantify that 1,047 overtime hours in terms of number of sheriff employees? You understand what I'm saying? Is that like a one full-time sheriff job? Is that half full-time or half a sheriff job? Is it 3 sheriff jobs?
Through the chair, I can't quantify the number of deputies at this time. I can tell you that what we do is we post the opportunities for details, and those that are interested in working that time sign up for it. So we would have to go back and do a little bit more research to come up with a quantified number as to how many full-time positions that relates to.
Okay, thank you. Could you define for me the County Border Patrol Operations Order? Can you explain what that is?
Through the chair, this is an agreement between the agency and the Border Patrol as to how operations will be run. It's a law enforcement sensitive document. We are prohibited from sharing it, but we could redact and speak in general terms. It really is just an agreement that how we will spend the money and that we will notify them before we conduct details. It does specifically mention in the operations order that the sheriff's office is under no obligation to conduct immigration enforcement activities. And that is their language that they put in the agreement.
Through you, Mr. Chairman, to the administration, I would welcome receiving that agreement. And I know you have stipulated previously that you're not involved, your office is not involved in immigration, though the language that you just said is that our office, our sheriff's department, is under no obligation to, at this time, engage in immigration enforcement. Would you anticipate, how often is this agreement revised? Do you have to sign a new one every year? Can it be revised like at will?
Through the chair, the operations order comes out on an annual basis with each grant opportunity. We can break our agreement at any time. I believe there's language that would require us to return any unused funds. I can't share the document with you, but I can quote the language that says that recipients of this grant, being us, the local agency, will not enforce Title VIII U.S. immigration law, nor will we be granted any additional authorities or powers under that title.
Through you, Mr. Chairman, to the administration, why can you not share that with us in written form?
Through the chair, this is not our document. It is law enforcement sensitive and considered a classified document from the federal agencies.
Okay. So why did the funding decrease this year? Through you, Mr. Chairman, to the administration.
Through the chair, traditionally, the funding has been set across the nation at $90 million. Most recently, the 2024 grant was reduced to $81 million. We were not notified why the entire program was reduced. We can only speculate.
Okay, thank you. And how do you foresee the affecting the activity that the sheriff's department is engaged in?
Through the chair, the slight reduction that we see will be taken out of the overtime line.
Okay, thank you. I noticed in, this may be slightly tangential, I'm not sure. We received some guidance from the Farm Bureau when they visited last week, and one of their requests was for local law enforcement to not call Border Patrol when local law enforcement is in need of translation services. Do you have a translator on staff at the sheriff's department?
Are you wondering the germaneness of this question? I'd like to reject that and ask legislator Hugh Smith to come to a question, please.
Yeah, my question was through you, Mr. Chairman,
Okay,
to the administration is, do we have a translator?
we have an appeal to the motion by legislator DeFlorio, or by legislator Smith, second by legislator Dondorfer. Please remind us of our yeses and nos.
Yes sustains the rule of the chair.
Yes is to continue the discussion.
Correct. Mr. Burgess.
Continue the discussion is a yes.
Just say yes.
Mr. Burgess votes yes. Mr. Colby. Mr. Colby votes no. Mr. Cruz. Mr. Cruz votes yes. Mrs. DeFlorio. Ms. DeFlorio votes no. Mr. Dondorfer. Mr. Dondorfer votes no. Ms. Hugh Smith. Ms. Hugh Smith votes yes. Mr. Mafucci.
Yes.
Mr. Mafucci votes yes. Mr. Milne. Mr. Milne votes no. Ms. Smith. Ms. Smith votes no. Ms. Vasquez Simmons. Ms. Vasquez Simmons votes yes. Chairman Long.
Yes.
Chairman Long votes yes, 6-5. The rule of the chair is sustained.
A translator on staff.
Through the chair, we do not have a translator on staff. We have a contract with translation companies to respond to our calls.
Thank you. Through you, Mr. Chairman, to the administration, when, do you keep records of when you need to call translation services?
Again, this has absolutely nothing to do with this proposal in front of us or this acceptance of a grant in front of us. Translation services is not part of this. This is a grant for the Stone Garden.
Yeah, I agree. I agree.
Okay. Thank you. I yield.
Are there any other questions or comments? Legislator Smith?
Chair to the administration, just to confirm, voting no on this doesn't stop the program. If it fails, this would only force the county taxpayers to foot the bill.
Through the chair, that's correct. The burden would fall on the sheriff's office operating budget to be able to respond to this public safety issue.
Any other questions? Legislator Hugh Smith?
Since we have the right to leave the agreement at any time, who would make that decision whether we stay doing a federal job or whether our sheriff's department does not do this federal job if we reject the funding? Who makes that decision?
Through the chair, I'm going to request clarification. The term federal job, this is a local law enforcement need, the public safety need. Maybe I'm misunderstanding your point.
Sure. Through you, Mr. Chairman, to the administration, if we do not accept this grant funding, and as you have stipulated, your agreement with Border Patrol allows us to exit that function, allows us to exit that relationship at any time, who would decide whether to continue in that relationship? Could we choose certainly we could choose to no longer engage with the Border Patrol in that way.
Through the chair, our understanding is that would be the sheriff's determination to break this agreement with the federal authorities.
Okay, so thank you. I guess to explain my votes, what I've heard this evening is that our sheriff's department patrols the border, which I don't necessarily think is a job that's not needed, but that we are taking in federal funds to do this particular job. And that role can be misconstrued and often is by members of our community. And I think it's more appropriate for Border Patrol to do those jobs and for our Sheriff's Department to focus on serving the direct needs within our community. So I will be voting no.
Are there any other questions or comments? Legislator Dondorfer.
Chair to the administration. I believe that you used a key phrase, and I think that I would like you to highlight that key phrase one more time. The objective of the Sheriff's Office Marine Unit, while you are doing these programs, is to enforce criminal activity that is occurring in the waterways. Is that correct?
Through the chair, that's correct. With the addition, it's not just the waterways. It's the entire shoreline and the egress and access to the community from that border.
So again, through the chair to the administration, your objective is criminal activity, and you're not going out asking people for their national origin and whether or not they are here legally or illegally, and that your main function is criminality that is occurring through these jurisdictions.
Through the chair, that's correct. And our sheriff's office policy prohibits us from going out and just inquiring about immigration status.
Thank you for answering my last question. I yield the floor.
Are there any other questions or comments? Legislator Colby.
Thank you. Just for clarification, this is a New York State grant, not a federal grant. Am I correct? Through you, Mr. Chairman?
Through the chair, the money is funded by the federal government through FEMA, but it is fed through New York State and managed by New York State Department of Homeland Security.
So through you, Mr. Chairman, any restrictions or direction of how the money should be spent is dictated by New York State Division of Homeland Security? Is that correct?
Through the chair, that is correct. We do have to forward all of our operational reports to New York State and request any approvals for expenditures through New York State.
Through you, Mr. Chairman, is it fair to say that a lot of the activities that this grant funds, the sheriff would continue to do even if this grant wasn't available, but maybe on a lesser degree?
Through the chair, that's correct. There would be a noticeable reduction in our ability to provide this public safety, most especially during large festivals, Ontario Beach events, things like that, holidays where large crowds. We tend to try to schedule details during those times to ensure that we can get the most public safety for our expenditure.
So through you, Mr. Chairman, it's just a clarification in my mind. This is a public safety issue that the sheriff has determined is needed in our community. It's just a question of how it's funded. Is that correct?
Through the chair, yes, that's correct. It's an essential mission. We cannot stop doing this. We would have to find other means through the operating budget in order to conduct this.
Mr. Chairman.
Are there any other questions or comments? Legislator Hugh Smith.
Yes, please. Thank you, Mr. Chairman. To the administration. Border Patrol has the authority to operate how many miles from the border?
I'd like to reject that point of order.
She has to
Oh,
state it.
sorry. What's your point of order, Jermaine? Yeah. I'd like the legislator to finish.
How many miles from the border patrol, conducts their activities, this, is not germane to accepting a grant for overtime in support of our sheriff's department in conducting criminal investigations and responding to crime in our community.
Does the answer to the distance that the border is help you with your questions?
It does.
All right, I'd like to reject the point of order. Okay, all right, hang on. We have
Is there
to,
a second on the appeal?
motion by legislator DeFlorio, seconded by legislator Smith.
Yes sustains the rule of the chair.
Yes.
Mr. Burgess. Mr. Burgess votes yes. Mr. Colby.
No.
Mr. Colby votes no. Mr. Cruz. Mr. Cruz votes yes. Ms. DeFlorio. Ms. DeFlorio votes no. Mr. Dondorfer. Mr. Dondorfer votes no. Ms. Hugh Smith. Ms. Hugh Smith votes yes. Mr. Mafucci.
Yes.
Mr. Mafucci votes yes. Mr. Milne. Mr. Milne votes no. Ms. Smith. Ms. Smith votes no. Ms. Vasquez Simmons. Ms. Vasquez Simmons votes yes. Chairman Long.
Yes.
Chairman Long votes yes. 6-5, appeal of the chair, or the chair rule is sustained.
Legislator Hugh Smith.
To the administration, to the best of your knowledge, what is the distance from the border under which Border Patrol is allowed to operate?
Through the chair, I'm unable to answer that question at this time.
Through you, Mr. Chairman, to the administration, if Border Patrol is reaching out to the Sheriff's Department to have your assistance, wouldn't they be asking you to operate within those boundaries within which they have jurisdiction?
Through the chair, the Border Patrol does not direct us to do anything. We are enforcing public safety and criminal statutes along the border, and they are helping us fund it. I believe, if I'm understanding your question correctly, the communication really is more one way as to us reporting on how that money is spent.
Okay, last question through you, Mr. Chairman, to the administration. Could you define criminal? Criminal statutes?
Through the chair, New York State statutes, penal law, vehicle and traffic law, marine law, local ordinances. We are capable of enforcing federal statutes, although we very rarely do that. It is within our purview.
Thank you. I yield the floor.
Are there any other questions or comments? Legislator Cruz.
Make two clarifications that were stated earlier on, this grant and the program, the Stone Garden program does come down from the federal government, which is then released to the states. Is that how it works?
Through the administration, or sorry, through the chair, That's correct. The funding is provided by the federal government through FEMA, and then it's directed to New York State, who then distributes it to us.
Stone Garden program, through the chair to the administration, the Stone Garden program, is that a program that the name itself and the designation of the program is the name of the grant stated by the federal government?
Through the chair, the federal government and FEMA have named this program. It's used this name as far as I can remember.
Okay, I just want to make sure that there was a differential between the funding coming down from the state and the funding coming down from the federal program, federal government to the states. And last question or point of clarification, through the chair to the administration, I kind of heard that some of this funding was being utilized to help with boating through, I guess, the warmer weather days along the lake. And I just wanted, what is what will be the difference then? Were you asking money meant for border patrolling, for boat patrolling? How are we differentiating the usage of this funding? Should I clarify my question a little bit? I overheard, through the chair to the administration, I overheard the sheriff mention that the funding was being utilized for boating in the area. And then I also heard saying that it was used for individuals that were trafficking, going over the border, obviously in boats with drugs or whatever. There's one of them is border patrolling, and the other one is keeping local boaters safe. Is that what I heard that was mentioned?
Through the chair, the functions that are performed are the same, regardless of who's paying the bill. We are out there doing proactive law enforcement, public safety work. We are able to use this funding to supplement those patrols and to ensure that we have adequate coverage, especially during holidays and festivals and large crowds. All sorts of public safety work that we do on a daily basis. We're doing the same type of work under this grant. They're just helping us pay for it.
Yes, and just to clarify from my point of view, I thank the sheriff's department for the job that they are doing and continuing to do to keep our community safe. I just simply believe, like I already stated, that this job of border patrolling should be left to border patrol, and our sheriff's department should be focusing on our everything that's happening within our borders and community. Thank you.
Any other questions or comments? Seeing none, on a motion and a second, how about we do a roll call vote, please, Mr. Clerk?
Roll call vote on the referral. Mr. Burgess. Mr. Burgess votes yes. Mr. Colby. Mr. Colby votes yes. Mr. Cruz. Mr. Cruz votes no. Ms. DeFlorio. Ms. DeFlorio votes yes. Mr. Dondorfer. Mr. Dondorfer votes yes. Ms. Hugh Smith. Ms. Hugh Smith votes no. Mr. Mafucci. Mr. Mafucci votes yes. Mr. Milne. Mr. Milne votes yes. Ms. Smith. Ms. Smith votes yes. Ms. Vasquez Simmons. Ms. Vasquez Simmons votes no. Chairman Long.
Yes.
Chairman Long votes yes. 8-3, referral passes.
Thank you, everyone. And thanks to the administration and Chief Fowler for the questions and answers. Next item, please, Mr. Clerk.
Referral 25-0047, authorize intermunicipal agreements with participating townships and villages and a contract with the University of Rochester Department of Public Safety for reimbursement to the Monroe County Sheriff's Office for the use of Monroe County Sheriff's Office health and wellness clinicians and programs.
Moved by legislator Mafucci, second by legislator Vasquez Simmons. Are there any questions or comments? Seeing none, and before we vote, I'd like to declare my interest, please.
Got it.
All those in favor, please indicate by saying aye. Aye. Any opposed? Motion carries. Next item, please.
Referral 25-0052, authorizing intermunicipal agreement with the city of Rochester for traffic control services at Innovative Field.
Moved by legislator Mafucci, seconded by legislator Vasquez Simmons. Are there any questions or discussion? Legislator Dondorfer.
Got it.
Any other questions or comments? Seeing none, all those in favor? We're voting on the referral. All those in favor, please indicate by saying aye. Aye. Anyone opposed? Motion carries. Are there any other matters to come before this committee? Legislator Hugh Smith?
Could I request some information on the sheriff's department's use of the translation services? We must have records of some kind on when translation services are needed. What would you be able to provide us to understand the need within our department for translation services?
Request made. Request, we'll make sure to make the request.
Okay, thank you.
Are there any other matters? There being no other matters, the February 25th, 2025 meeting of the Public Safety Committee stands adjourned. The next meeting of the Public Safety Committee will be held on Tuesday, March 25th, 2025 at 5:30 PM.